the journey is going to be super uncomfortable. But when you get to the end, you will then be at the top of the mountain. You will be welcomed into this sisterhood of women or into this group of men. And you will feel like you belong there.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Conversations. Wow, came in really hot with that one. I'm excited. This is like a really, really good conversation we have ready for us this week. In a little bit, I'm going to introduce Heather and Joss, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Friday Conversations, for anybody that's watching at home or just new to the area, this is a chance for business owners, entrepreneurs, and literally just people to get together and breathe a little bit. Take that like rush and craziness out of your day and think and talk out loud about some of the bigger topics that we don't always get a chance to talk about because we're thinking about spreadsheets or picking kids up from school or how are we going to pay the utilities this month? Like all the different things that just stack up. And so this week, the topic is we're talking about rites of passage, which I'm super excited about that. But before we get into that, I want to do some introductions around the table here. And then I want to do a couple acknowledgements. So I'll start by thanking Dryfly. We are at Dryfly right now. We're in their mezzanine, and they are just an incredible partner, gracious partner. They allow us to come up here, have food, enjoy each other's company, talk it out, and then disappear. They also provide an amazing lunch, which Rob Reuter, which you'll get to meet here in a minute from Idic Designs, graciously helps pay for that. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Dryfly. And I'm going to start with Brett, and we'll just make our way around the table. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll get this thing started.
Yeah, my name is Brett McMahon, financial service professional with New York Life. I have a small practice here in Spokane, downtown. I help people with their financial goals, including their financial junk drawer, helping people accumulate, protect, and get ready for retirement.
Excellent.
Yep.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Rob Reuter here with Idic Designs. If you feel invisible, inconsistent, and not confident in your business activities, I work with small business owners and help them with their technology. I have open office hours Wednesdays and Saturday mornings. You can meet me, no obligation.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Dave Ribble from Standout Mastery. We coach professionals like yourself with better communication, connection, and collaboration skills. And if you don't stand out, how will they know you're there?
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Strike, and I'm a co-founder of Wildly Local, women's group that creates events that are meaningful for women of all ages and children here in Spokane.
Hi, I'm Heather Ricciardo. I'm also the co-founder of Wildly Local. Yeah, hopefully if you'd like to join in when we get going.
Yeah, excellent.
I'm Todd with Lump, LOMP.ai, lots of moving parts, and we place buyers in front of sellers under their control.
Excellent.
I am Leonidas Biron, son of Melissa and Jonathan Biron, and I am a social media manager.
Excellent. Welcome. Jonathan Biron, I sell houses here locally, buyers, sellers. If you don't have a realtor that you refer to other people that you're like, this is my realtor, I would love to be that guy. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a message, let me know, and we'll get that process started.
I'm Zane Schwendiman. I am interested in connecting with people and getting out there and connecting lots of people, just like Dave teaches us how to, and also working on a project called The Initiative.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome. We also have some amazing people in the gallery. We will allow them to introduce themselves when the conversation gets started as they jump in. So Heather, Joss, I am so excited to have you guys on here. One, because this week, the third Friday, we focus on youth and next generation. And Heather, I love, Joss, I haven't talked to you as much, so I'm sure you share this, but Heather has talked frequently about why she started Wildly Local is to allow her children, her girls, to interact with women that are like mother figures and like grandmother figures. And just this intergenerational importance. I thought about even renaming this theme to intergenerational. It just sounds a little bit intergalactic and not quite the vibe that I'm going for with themes, but I love that heart that you have to build that and build an ecosystem for that. And so that is the theme that we're talking about. And specifically today, we're talking about rites of passage. And this is an idea that's been percolating for me, but Heather and I were talking recently, and it just kind of like came into this, like, this is super important. We know that, but it's like, this is what we want to talk about this Friday. So Heather, give us a little bit of a kickoff here.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you, Jonathan, SB, for having us here. It's been really fun as Joss and I have started at the very beginning of our journey of having a small idea of being two moms that had young daughters that were wanting to build a community for our girls to grow with and within, and wanting to set up events and experiences for them. But we had no idea kind of how to move forward, and even meeting you was so inspiring to then be able to come here and watch you on the Friday conversations. And even if it's not pertaining to what we're doing, we always find like a little gem that inspires me and goes, oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna take that and see where we can go with it. So we started Wildly Local, so that our girls can have a multi-generational group of other women to lean on. We do social events, and we're really looking forward to our next event that we're planning, which will be a rite of passage or a coming of age for young girls to get together and have a meaningful experience, where they can talk to women of different ages and help guide them into womanhood. I find that in society, we've become so busy and isolated, running kids to little activities here and there. And there's not been a time for, in our case, young girls to take a pause, to get excited for what the future is to become, and to feel a sense of connection. And so we're hoping to build an event that can help usher them forward into the next very exciting part of their life.
I love it. Love it. As everybody's contemplating that, I'm thinking Todd or somebody, if somebody wants to look up what the definition of rite of passage is, we'll have that read. But curious to hear everybody's thoughts around rites of passage, and particularly what I've interacted with recently is that because we don't, as a society here, especially here in America, we don't have a traditional rite of passage. You have like in Hispanic culture, you have your quinceañera. In Judaism, you have your bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah. But Western America, or Western America, we're in the Northwest, but America in general, Western society in general, we don't have that equivalent. And so what people are opining and recognizing is that we have a whole generation of numerically adult people that have never been told, you're an adult now, welcome to adulthood. And we're seeing some adverse effects for that. And then transposing that onto business, at what point do you become a business owner? At what point are you not just somebody that's starting a business, but like you get to step into that mantle of this is a label that I can put on myself, a badge I can wear at the conference that says I'm an owner. So curious what people's thoughts are. Did you look up the dictionary definition?
I did.
Okay.
So rite of passage is coming of age is the first definition, and it involves in tribal terms, it involves ceremonies, the quinceañera that you mentioned, and it's a graduation for coming of age of younger people to begin their life as a young adult.
Yeah,
So come on up to the table and introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and give us your thoughts.
I'm Emily Funston. I am a new life coach in the area, and I call my business The In Between. And essentially what it is just helping people who feel frustrated and stuck in their lives. And as someone who really believes in the promises that God has for me and others, I really want them to not just look toward the future, but live in the now. And I like to view that as you're not just looking at the pot of gold, but the rainbow that leads there.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you.
When Joss and I first kind of came up with the idea of a rite of passage, I was spending some time reflecting. So in my younger years, I joined the Coast Guard. So I went through boot camp, which is kind of a unique thing for a woman to go through. And it was something that was so monumental for me at the time because I had to go through something both physically and emotionally hard. But then at the end of that, I found that I felt a sense of belonging and a commitment to something bigger than myself, which helped focus a plan for the future. And I wonder within, with young girls, you're hoping to build that community and have a sense of self and strength that you can accomplish something difficult. But within the business sense, I would think that it would be a lot like, what can we do as a business to bring our employees on, to make them feel the same amount of commitment that you do as the owner? And what can we do to make that a ritual so that we're all moving forward and with the same goal in mind?
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Something about tribes is coming up for me.
Yeah.
And the further we get into independent living, where COVID taught us how to stay home and not socialize and all of that, I just see more and more of this. And the group of women that you work with, they're looking for that same kind of tribal thing that other groups understand better than we do, I think. And we're seeing the repercussions, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I also think there's something to be said for young men
Oh, absolutely.
not having a group
Yeah.
and needing it, and what Emily's working on, what you guys are working on. It's obvious that there's a need.
For sure. Love that.
What is historically what's been is the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts.
Right.
Giving them a platform, if you will, or a venue to go to and collectively be part of a body, a larger body. So it sounds like it's more what you're offering or building is more centralized.
The other thing too that I think is a little bit different as well, because though they're both such great programs that have helped young kids build confidence, and there is the parental involvement. When we have our events, we have everyone from 80 all the way down. So our girls are getting knowledge and wisdom passed down from multiple generations, women without kids, women with kids, grandmas, aunties, and from all different ethnic backgrounds. So we're getting to be able to share with them these life skills, this wisdom that's supposed to be set down. But to be able to give wisdom, it's an active, you have to actively participate in that. And it can be uncomfortable because the things that you need help with are usually uncomfortable conversations that girls don't want to have, or even young boys don't want to have, or even when you're in the workplace, if you have to uncomfortably talk to somebody about their work ethic or, the way they're looking at certain problems. But through that uncomfortableness, then is the way that you can build trust and moving forward, hopefully past some little bits of knowledge down when they're ready.
So if you wouldn't mind, walk us through when someone or a family has girls and they want to get involved, walk us through what that looks like.
We have a website, Wildly Local, and we post our events there. Right now, we've been kind of doing a couple half-yearly parties where we get together and it's a chance to meet other mothers in the area. And then we'll be posting hopefully soon our retreat that we are aiming for this upcoming fall for mothers plus 10-year-old plus young daughters, couple nights away, where we can build a retreat that can help moms work with their daughters and have a moment to take a pause, especially if I have 3 daughters. So I very rarely get to have one-on-one with my oldest at this point in time, where I can focus solely on how can we build a strong bond that leads us to be able to having those open, hard conversations? And hopefully we'll have other moms around, even if they don't have daughters, that can come and join us on some of these events so that our kids have somebody else to lean on if it is something that maybe they're not comfortable coming to me with. They'll have another friend that, or another auntie or a grandma that they could go to ask a question or get some advice. Mhm.
Yeah, Steve Hicks, Thriving Body Holistic Fitness. But I'm really curious, as we've talked about like rites of passage, how it has this identity shift, this mindset shift, and like the benefit of that to kind of come into a new sense of self with with the retreat and the stuff that you guys are putting on. I'm curious what elements you're putting into these and why those particular things and what outcomes you're hoping that the participants get out there.
We're kind of going with the mind, body, soul, which is, pretty easy to say, but harder to compact into one thing. Plus bonding with your parents.
Yeah,
So-
like sharing meals together, creating situations that are comfortable for this group of ladies and young girls to talk and build trust with each other. And we can have some other active things, kind of take you out of your head a little bit. Like we're talking about maybe some yoga class in the morning for the kids and go on hikes and just kind of get people moving and comfortable with each other so that they can build those relationships that they're looking for.
We've been networking with some other female entrepreneurs that want to come in and talk about, health. We'd like to bring in some stuff about friendships and how to navigate young teen-aged friendship. What does a long-lasting friendship look like? So I was speaking to my mom today, who's had a friend since she was in high school, and I'm like, it's so amazing. How can we teach our daughters how to navigate friendships through the changing times? So we're hoping to do a physical body, mental connection, as well as making it fun so that the kids feel like they're having a great time and had this magical experience that they can then go, oh, we did all this together.
Cool. I like that too. My brain, when we started talking about rite of passage, and then actually really appreciated your comment about the rainbow, right? And being on that rainbow to the pot of gold. But that rite of passage or being able to see, and I try to do this with my kids of, I'm putting you on a path. That path can go so many ways, but at least getting people onto that path and giving them a direction versus where if we don't have goals or something to go through, it can just feel like I'm just here. So being able to guide and direct, I love that, what you're trying to build.
I'm Melissa Biron with Thrive Wellness, and I help others with their metabolic stability. So think of like controlling your blood sugar, getting off of medications that are probably not as great for you as you might think. So that's what I do. But I am loving this conversation, and I really love the connection of really bringing it back to simplicity, honestly, because I think that for society and how it is right now, there's just a lot of noise. And when you're going throughout your day as a parent and there's so many things to be done, and I mean, our kids are in different things at different times throughout the, especially like after school, it's like, okay, let's go do this and like band concert and mathnasium and, dance and just all the things. And maybe a sport in there, it's like, it can be actually overwhelming at times. And having a space to connect and bring it back to the basics, I think is really good and important. But also having that multi-generational, talking about the hard things in a safe place where it's just women and just girls, I think is so important. So I want to congratulate you with starting that because it might seem like super ambitious, but so important and can integrate into so many parts of a woman's life. And as you know, as a woman and even as a guy, there's so many hormones that are going on, and it's very different for women versus men, but it's a very important stage of life. And I love that we keep talking about the tribes because I've watched some of Native Americans go through the process of becoming a woman, and they're so young, and it is hard, but there's such a beautiful celebration of coming into womanhood that I don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't have that. And I desire that for my own daughter. And I think it would, I'm not gonna do it, but if there's a guy out there that wants to do this for guys, I mean, geez, how amazing would that be? And to be able to talk about some of the really hard things that you go through. So, yeah, this is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there a lot of grandmothers that are just itching to be in on the conversation?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There is, I mean, I know I'm so lucky that I have such a great example with my mother, and she is very inspiring in lots of other ways, that it's fun that she gets to come along and she knows all of my kids' friends and the girls that are at the party. And actually one of my really good friends who passed away in school, his mom comes to all of my female-led events. She doesn't have kids anymore. She just wants to be part of my children's life and she is an inspiring woman for my girls to look up to, and has helped them, through many different stages. So it's been really great and it's good for them. She gives her something to do. So it's not just paying downwards, it pays up as well.
One of the thoughts that came to me when you were talking about the hard things, and we were talking about Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and a different conversation from this, but it leads into what we're talking about, is that especially young people right now have an increasingly difficult time just doing something.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things online about don't do it wrong, don't do it this way, no, if you do it that way, it's wrong, and they're contradicting each other. And so there's this analysis paralysis that I think we all suffer from, but especially young people. It's like, I'm so afraid, like this podcast is an example, like I'm so afraid to do it wrong or mess up. The sound wasn't right. The backdrop wasn't cool enough. It's like, and we just have this like massive expectation on especially young people. But we mentioned Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and they have suffered a reputational hit because the cancel culture, and I don't know if we even use that phrase anymore, but like this, like, oh, they're too this, oh, they're too that, oh, they have, and then we get into some stuff that genuinely like ought to be looked at and corrected and all of that. And yet there's this like sense of like, I don't want to offend anybody. And I think coming of age rites of passage can be offensive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, just taking the few that we listed, Quinceañera, well, I'm not from that culture, so it would be really weird for me to like Leonidas isn't a girl either, but like just like that doesn't fit, and like we're not Jewish in heritage, so like for us to do bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, it's like that doesn't necessarily. So like that sort of hyper focus, but that's when we're talking about tribes. An aspect of it is like I am aligning myself with this tribal viewpoint to almost the alienation of every other tribe, and that this whole thing where we're all one, we're coming together, it's just an interesting tension that I think.
I mean, I think that's where the military kind of pulls that together, where you take these people that don't know each other, and that's kind of this, especially for like a young boys that would be doing something like what Joss and I are doing with Wildly Local for girls. Boys need more of that physical stress.
Yeah.
And the military kind of got that figured out well, where they're taking people from all walks of life. You're going through physically hard and mentally hard things, challenges together.
Yeah.
Yep. And then at the end, you have been bonded with people that you wouldn't have normally had the same background. That's what we're aiming for. I don't think, with girls, you can still have some of the physical challenges. For example, when we go sit in the sauna and you're hot and you're sweaty and you want to get out and it's uncomfortable. And lately, not a lot of people are uncomfortable in life. So it's good to have those moments of being uncomfortable, or with young kids being forced to do things that the journey is going to be super uncomfortable. But when you get to the end, you will then be at the top of the mountain. You will be welcomed into this sisterhood of women or into this group of men. And you will feel like you belong there.
Yes.
These young kids are becoming adults and they kind of go like, well, am I really an adult?
Yeah.
I'm 18, but I've never really done something really difficult that I can look back and go, I am proud of myself. I belong to be here. I am part of this community. I am an adult. I'm going to make adult decisions and be confident.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Mark?
Thanks. Mark Luna, New American Funding, real estate financing for all your real estate needs. So I just wanted to go back, we're talking about rites of passage and everything else. And John had brought it up earlier about some cultures have the quinceañera. Well, my daughter last summer, we had a quinceañera for my daughter.
Nice.
And it was fantastic and whatnot. And so I think for some people, I don't know if they still do this or whatnot, but I think for people that aren't necessarily of the Latino kind of segment or whatever cross section, that most people they used to do, or I don't know if they still do, it's sweet 16s.
Sure.
Everyone else does a sweet 16 is essentially kind of the same thing, rite of passage. And then it seemed like, going back maybe 20, 30 years, it seemed like a lot of people for their rite of passage and growing up, they would just generally be part of a tribe. They would just, go to high school, be part of that group and that tribe, and then they go to go away to college and their university, and they might join a sorority or a fraternity and be part of those tribes and kind of form their opinions of what it is to be an adult after getting spit out the system, basically. But now it seems like not as many people are going the college or university track, necessarily compared to what it was in the past. And so, to Heather's point, it's some people are losing that identity, or don't have it as much as they did. Like you went to the Coast Guard, and that's kind of a similar path or track, as going to the college route or whatever. And so it's just kind of interesting to see the comparisons, because everyone has like tribe, and whether you're going through the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, same kind of thing. Everyone's got their tribe, and then I remember like myself, going through college, everyone's encouraged, you have to get an internship and, do this so you can learn, in ideally your industry or field of study or choice, what it's really like to do X, Y, or Z. And then once you complete your course and your degree and stuff, then you're like, okay, so more or less what it's like and how to do these things. And, you're somewhat, you're lost, right? To a certain degree. So, but now it's just a little bit more fragmented, I see, because not necessarily everyone has that set structure, or tribe to go up onto.
Thank you, Mark.
So I'm gonna try to kind of put a framework around this a little bit, because I've been thinking about what in rite of passage and things, and I think we have smaller ones. What you are trying to build is a really interesting model, because it goes back to our more smaller roots where we had there were big spaces between people and so things. But one of the things I was thinking about early when the topic got started, I was thinking about things like we have eighth grade graduation, we have high school graduation, we have college graduation, and each of those are a form of a rite of passage. And I was trying to think, what's the transformation? Maybe this helps with the conversation. Some things that I came up with is, first quality of this is the identity shift. That before the passage, I was, things were being done to me, but now I've reached a level at which I'm being recognized. And along with that comes the sense of ownership or responsibility. Child does child things, adult does responsible things. So there's that I now have to take on, and I smile at that because I remember I was 35 before I decided that I could actually make a significant financial decision without calling mom. I could be responsible to make this decision without checking. I liked what you talked about, because another thing came up was the relationship with fear and discomfort.
Yeah.
You're now more aware. It's not just I don't like this. It's like, now I have to do, because part of that responsibility, I have to do something with this. And then belonging, just, there's usually a cohort, there's usually some group going through this experience at the same time. And now you have generational, and that's the beauty of your program, of bringing the generations together, because each is the mentoring the one or ones that come behind them. So it's, I think the final one I'll end is the idea of, before the event, you are receiving, everything's coming at you. Afterwards, you now are contributing. You are now part of that. You have standing here.
Yeah.
And so what you say has to be taken with more recognition that, yes, you've earned the right to speak.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some thoughts, developed. Maybe it helps spark some more conversation. That's great.
I love that.
Yeah, so I was thinking back to when you mentioned social media and the effects on young people. And I'm in that Gen Z generation that has definitely lived in a dual reality where we see things online, people accomplishing X, Y, and Z and making it look really pretty and easy and immediate. And so I found in my own life and a lot of other people in my generation that doing hard things feels like something's wrong. Like there's some kind of suffering or unusual hardship taking place.
Yeah.
when actually hard things are good, right? They grow us and they build us and they challenge us to be more than we thought we could be. But it's just interesting to me how we've just kind of got a wrong definition of what hard is and what we should do with it and what it means about us too. And something that also kind of is attached to that is, I think we live in a world where what you do is that's what you're trained to focus on rather than who you are. And I think it's just really important to be able to figure out in the context like you're talking about with other women and multiple generations, who you are, what do you care about, what actually gives you value, what makes you proud of yourself. And then from there you can move forward. What do you want to accomplish and where do you want to go in the world? But we're so focused on the destination and what are the logistics that we lose sight of. Okay, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? Do I actually care? All of that. So
Good stuff.
yeah.
It's also will be a good opportunity, I hope, with our girls and the other women that are coming along, because you do see on social media the people that we either socialize with or that we're friends with, some that are really great with their social media presence, and you go, oh, look at her, gorgeous, perfect photos, always put
Yes.
together, her life must be perfect.
Yeah.
And then they come along with us on a retreat, or and you get to see them when they wake up in the morning with no makeup, and you go, oh,
Yeah,
like you're a
exactly.
real person. And
Right.
this is amazing that you have the ability to showcase yourself in such a great way,
Right.
but you're just like me, and you have faults and you have flaws. Maybe you see that they actually worked really hard, like to curate their perfect outfits or their photos, and you realize that, okay, so even though you can have that instant, like with my daughters, they see those instant gratifications on when they do get to see like a YouTube or something.
Yeah.
But they don't see that it probably has taken that person a lot of hard work
Right.
to make that one clip.
Yes, exactly.
Or that behind closed doors, they're not as polished as, and that's what you want to see, is
Yeah.
that it's a real person
Yes,
underneath all of
exactly.
that.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I love what you're doing. I would love to hear more about it. It's really inspiring.
Great.
Thank you. One thought that I kind of had going along with this is, yeah, there's those rites of passage. I know that you're doing that. So like, hey, here's something. But what have you seen, especially incorporating the different generations together, where maybe younger to older, older to younger are acknowledging, hey, you have gone through something, and allowing people to see the past that they've already, the rites of passage that they've already taken, but maybe they didn't attribute to being something that they went through.
So, when we're able to have a moment where, in my opinion, like our daughters are wanting us to be open and vulnerable, and it's uncomfortable as a mom, because maybe, I grew up a little bit too fast, more than I'd want my daughters to. So then last night I was thinking, oh my gosh, do I be brutally honest in exposing myself to my daughters and maybe losing the shine that I have as a mom, but yet hoping that I can say like, oh, I made a huge mistake, or I drank when I was too young, or something like, and try to teach them through my faults. And in a way, each parent has had, each mother's had different experiences. So there's some mothers that have grown up and maybe had a really blissful, sweet childhood and didn't make a lot of mistakes, and then did later on in life. And it's, if we're able to open up the floor, and if one person's able to be vulnerable, even if you're not sharing all your deep personal secrets, somebody along the way. So I always joke with my friends like, oh, you want me to be friends with when your kids are teenagers, because I know how to sneak out of the house. And I'll walk into your house and be like, oh, you've got to lock all, because that's what I did when I was a teenager. I was so naughty. God bless my mom. But because of that, they're not getting away with it with me.
Right.
Or my mom was so innocent when she was young that she had no idea that, at night I was peeling open my screen door and like tiptoeing out. So hopefully by being vulnerable and creating a space, it takes trust over time. So a couple fun activities with the girls, and then you just pepper in a few small things like, oh, what would you do if you're at a party and something's happening and you're uncomfortable and you don't feel like to call your mom? Do you have somebody else in this group that you'd be willing to reach out to? Because our kids see us make mistakes.
So I'm gonna put Leonidas on the spot in a second, but I'm gonna give him time to think while I explain why I'm putting him on the spot. So one of the things on this topic that I've been really curious about, and I'm cognizant of the fact that I literally can't do what I wish I could, and that is to see the world through 15-year-old eyes, right? What I saw of the world when I was 15, that's long past. And although like I can observe him from the exterior, like even this morning we were getting ready to come here and I was following him over. So he's getting to the driving point, right? And so like he drove the car out of the shop and down to where we load up the car. And I'm sitting with him in the passenger seat, but that's probably the last time, because he did so great that like from here out, it's probably like, hey, go get the car. Here's the keys. And so he's walking 10 paces, 20 paces ahead of me, and he's tossing the car key. And just all the confidence and swagger of a 15-year-old, that like, I remember that, but I remember it so differently because my dad was a different dad than I am. And I was a different guy than he was. And so I'm gonna put you on the spot. And what my question is very ill-defined, but just from a 15-year-old perspective, thinking about this conversation, what are you seeing in, and you can really comment anywhere, like in the interaction with mom and I, in the interaction with the other adults, and particularly for me, this conversation that I had an aha moment of like what you're doing with Wildly Local, like there's something, like I want to be the best dad possible. I want to be everything and anything. I want him to come to me with everything. And there are perspectives that Todd is going to have that I would be like, oh my goodness gracious, what are you doing? But also like, he needs that, right? And Dave and Rob and all the guys around the table, like that, I want him to have that rainbow of perspective, because if it's just, if I lock him in a room and I'm like, everything you are going to become is me copied, like, that's not helpful. So if you would, just give us a little like view of the 15-year-old mom.
I think kind of threw me on the spot here.
I did,
Yeah,
and we can come back.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna give you a minute to
Yeah.
think about that.
So there's a key component that is a beautiful component. And that, especially in the world we're currently living in, is isolation. I have two daughters.
Okay.
And watching them grow up 3 years apart, but there was moments that they felt isolated for whatever reason. They weren't invited. They weren't part of something that was going on at church even, so the isolation, what you're giving is exposure to the young ladies that don't feel isolated, because everybody here at the events that you have gone through the same experience. So we feel you, we understand, and you need to grow with it as we've grown. We're going to show you what that looks like, because without the contact that you give them, you afford them, they're going to be isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So the beautiful derivative, if you will, the key component is to dispel the isolation and say, you're no different than everybody else. Don't feel isolated. And if there's a moment that you feel isolated, reach out.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing. Because I wish I had that.
I know, right?
I had my brothers that just beat me up. We love you, John.
Yeah. But that's kind of a male ritual.
No.
Hi, Tyler.
Go ahead.
Long-time viewer, first-time attendee, so thank you all.
That's
for this.
welcome.
Great.
Welcome.
Curious what your thoughts are on like a rite of passage and what you do. I think like there's a lot that leads up to being able to be successful in doing what you're doing. And how are you laying the groundwork and the like little steps to being able to be successful in, the event that you're hosting or anything else that you're doing in life? Like, how are you laying that groundwork out for young girls, or maybe probably even women of your own age or whatever, to be successful as they go through a rite of passage?
So I think let's see, the girls in our community that we're building up, they're seeing lots of different mothers and grandmothers and women in their lives going on pursuits similar to ours, like Wildly Local. And so we're creating this example of like, you can think something up and you can go out and try to figure out how to patch it together. And you're going to use those contacts that you have within your community to get ideas and inspiration and kind of come together and figure out how to solve this problem and build something. And so I think it's kind of a package deal. It kind of comes with Wildly Local.
So like if I'm gonna go out and interact with someone, like I may be isolated and not have experience talking to someone that's 3, 5, 10 years older than me, like how are you preparing them for like even entering into that conversation to start that journey?
I suppose just by having them come to these events and see that it's perfectly okay to get to know the, like, you know, your neighbors, basically, like the women that are close to you, and becoming comfortable around them and not afraid to go reach out to them for that help, because, you know, they've watched you grow up alongside your own mother. You know, you've got these other women that are kind of pseudo mothers that are taking the daughters in, and like, you know, I watch my girls, like they'll get hugs from other moms. I'm a single mom. I know that my girls need a lot, and I don't always know exactly what that is. And so having these other women in the group, being able to like give them a hug and like show them that they're part of something and they're cared for and they're seen, like that, I think that that's really inspiring to them, and it helps them see that they can participate with other girlfriends' moms, and they can go to them for help, and they can, you know, build their life with those sort of relationships.
And we started with like little exposures. So that's where the party aspect, although, you know, fun, probably not a big business adventure, but we have these parties and people are able to come. And we've been really lucky that some of the women, probably because some of us are more outspoken, that I make an attempt to try to get to know everybody. And as soon as they come in, we greet them, we get them head to the party, whether it's the mom or the daughters, and we get all of the daughters to take their photos, and you get eased into the party. And then by the parties, and you start going, oh, this is fun, especially with the young girls. You got to have the fun first. And then when we do when we go on and have like the rite of passage, you're able to, because everyone's had fun together and you're comfortable, you can kind of open those little doors of uncomfortableness.
Yeah, you've already built a sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, yeah, and I think too, to maybe speak even more directly to that, something that I love about these kind of gatherings is that a lot of things are caught, not taught. And it's not so much a teaching, like, here's our curriculum, this is what we're gonna teach you, but if I'm here and I'm talking, and I might even be talking to Zane, and over here Dave say something to somebody new that just walked in the door, and I'm like, that was gold. Like, I'm now adding that to my tool belt. I'm gonna try that out the next time I'm talking to somebody else. And so I think that when you have people, you know, you come into a gathering, and I think about like my family gatherings, you know, going to grandma and grandpa's house for Christmas dinner, like you're observing, and as a young person, you're soaking it in, and some of it's gonna stick and become part of who you are, and some of it's gonna be like, I do not want to be like Uncle Jack.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
I'm sorry if anybody here is Uncle Jack, you know.
Everyone has one.
We all have.
So I think it might not be like directly answering the question, but one of the things that you and mom have done really well is just creating like an open space to where I am confident that, hey, I am confident that I will catch those keys up to it. Launch them there. But like, if I deep drop it, it's like, you're not gonna run up behind me and yell at me for dropping the keys. It's like, don't do that. Or like, or you just like do it again and see what happens next. You're gonna drop it. But like, you've just created an open space where I feel comfortable doing those things. So I don't know how you did that, but you know, talk about how you did that.
Wait, me back on the spot?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
Take that.
actually, it's interesting because I think Lee and I has touched on something that I've been thinking about, and that's I've been reflecting on my own mother. And some of the things she's talked about, being a single mother who raised a boy and a girl, you know, through that process. And she's been open with both my sister and I and with others that the one thing that she did through that time was believe that her children were gifts to her. They were not her possessions. So everything she did was always, my children have their own path to walk, have their own being to become. They're going to become what they are supposed to become. And all she was there is to be a steward, to provide a safe space for that to happen. And that really spoke, you know, to the environment we grew up in. Yes, there were expectations, but there weren't laws. There weren't, you know, absolutely, you know, there was, you knew where the boundaries were, and if you crossed over it, you knew she would be disappointed, but it didn't destroy the relationship. It just simply meant do better next time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that gave my sister and I the opportunity to explore our own lives. And yes, some of us have taken those curves and done things that, my mother would not have chosen to do or chosen for us. And yet we are still closely knit as a family. And even as we're getting up in our senior years, we are getting closer together in that experience.
I want to pivot here to kind of like application. And what you guys are building is phenomenal. And I'd be curious thoughts either from the room or from you guys of how people can build their own communities of a similar sort, but also on an individual level. How do like, for me personally, like the thing I'm spinning about is how do I make myself do something hard now in my life to be the next rite of passage, right? It's not necessarily into adulthood. It's not necessarily into business ownership, but what is that thing? What is that Eagle Scout of the Scouts or the elite premium premier? And it doesn't have to be on that, like, I'm the best of the best, but just like, what is the thing that I'm putting in front of myself that's a hard thing, that's a challenge that I have to keep working on? I love what you were saying, because yes, with technology and everything else, whenever I start to get bogged down, I'm like, this shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I just quit doing it because it shouldn't be so hard? Do I delegate it to someone else to let them do it? I was working on something just before the show got started, and I was like, I was the projector. And I was like, I don't need to be playing around with it. Zane, figure it out. And I've moved on to the next thing. And Zane got the projector working. Like, so there is like, sometimes it's like, this is hard and I don't need to go through a hard thing for this to be what it needs to be, hand it off.
Yeah.
Or say, that's not where I'm going in life. Or this is hard and I'm here for it. I want to get to being bilingual. Like that's gonna, I would love to, but I'm not gonna put myself through that hard thing, right? So like, but curious, like thoughts on like, maybe for you, where this started and what you did to start to bring this thing to life, or, how can we intentionally build community in our lives, either for our kids or for ourselves or for the people around us?
I can't remember who was talking before about, but I think step one is to carve out the time. That's what Wildly Local is offering moms. It's not this unthought of brand new idea. There is social groups. There are groups that you can go join. Every mom wants to be able to take time and impart these amazing wisdoms that, at night you go to bed and you're like, oh, I wish I would have told her that she was more beautiful, but you have to make the time. I think that's the first step. So even within yourself, with your business or your idea, stop, gift yourself however a day to set your goals, figure out what it is that you're even trying to get to, and then what is your rite of passage to get there? When do you get to celebrate yourself? So that is one avenue. Another avenue, which I liked what you were saying earlier when you said Zane then went and did that. How do you give over rite of passage to somebody else? He's obviously proven his worth to you, to that you are willing to allow him to make the next step or start driving the car. You see it once and you get to have these little moments, but maybe making that more of a curated type experience where you go, okay, we're gonna go out hunting this weekend and you get to shoot your first, elk and do it all yourself. And then from then on, you get to, be allowed to go on your own. I think setting the time is probably the first step.
Right.
Well, and another thought for me is, I was just getting off your phone, which I realize that then needs a replacement behavior, right? It's not just about, okay, don't be on your phone, but I think something practical that I've done that's really helped me build community is just setting a couple hours, usually at night, but sometimes in the afternoon, that I'm not on my phone, on social media, on computer, whatever, that are just opportunities, A, for me to clear my mind, because you don't realize how cluttered your brain is with everything, all the stimulation. But also just an opportunity to call up a friend and, or I don't know, maybe find out about a church event going on that you wouldn't have been open to, or get been in the space to have that opportunity if you weren't kind of ready to go
Yeah.
and have the mindset, you know? And so, yeah, that's, I'm not sure if that was on the topic or not, but that's one
good.
thing I've done is just create that time by giving your brain the chance to breathe. Be like, okay, what is in the real world?
Right.
You know, and what people really want to have, the kind of conversations that I do. Yeah, just, yeah, carving out the time, but I've noticed there's a lot more time in the day if you're not on this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
You
Yeah.
probably cut out the phones, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a,
Yeah.
you know, when we do, well, and you find that, when we have like our parties, nobody wants to,
Yeah.
you want me, they want music. And that you want to have a opportunity to take photos with your friends and, you know, solidify these memories, and everything else is just bonding, talking, chatting. So
Right.
that part has been really, really special.
Very difficult for adults to do that.
It is. It definitely, I mean, it definitely is.
Well, and I like, both of you said this, you used the word gift.
Mhm.
And you said about like gifting yourself the time to be curious. So,
Yeah.
Something else that I've had to do recently is get the people in my life that can help me with the next thing. There was a time where John and I, 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I just can't figure out how to do this on my own.
Mhm.
And I really needed him to just sit with me, and then I would just talk some things out and then do the thing. But that's also true of a group of women that I've gathered together, and I'm like, I just need help with this thing, but I can't get my brain to think of what the next thing is. So building those pockets of community has been really helpful for me lately. But that also goes into business ideas, right? Like, I can't figure out what the next step is for this thing, and, you know, having John have Zane help him with that thing, that's amazing. I love that idea. Because my brain does not work that way. But I think there's a lot of times in my life that I have had that I'm the oldest child. And I have the sense that I have to do it on my own. And I've done a lot on my own. And there's even been this pride within me, like, I can do it. I've done it. And there you go.
Yeah.
See what I've done. But really realizing that it's really important to have those people around me. I mean, even here, those people around me that can support me in different ways or help me with the next thing. And I really think that applies a lot to not just business, but life in general. And then also us raising our kids too. And something that I've learned a lot is, and John mentioned it, but really the idea that my parents are different. Like, I see them different than my sisters do.
Yeah.
And they raised a different me than they did my sisters. And I'm raising Leonidas different than our other boy and girl. And they're gonna see me different than Leonidas does. And it's this perpetual thing that is also in motion with those around us and in business. And I'm a different coach than I am to the next person that I talk to. And I think if we can keep that in mind, it can really open our world up to different ideas and how we speak to different people.
Yeah. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, that is all we have time for today. I wish we had another 30 to 45 minutes. Todd and I were talking about stretching the time out a little bit.
So fast.
Yeah.
But I am gonna, first of all, thank Dry Fly again. Thank you, Rob, Idic Designs, for providing lunch. Heather, Jocelyn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wildlylocal.com, yes.
Yes.
Check out wildlylocal.com and get involved, especially if you're a woman. Get plugged in with these guys. They're going somewhere. I'm not gonna say I wish I was a woman, because that would introduce a whole different topic. But I wish I could participate in your community, but
I
I'm
know.
glad that you have, it's amazing.
Listen, would like to know what you.
You could start the male, like the
Yeah.
male version offshoot,
Yeah,
you know?
Wildly
Yeah.
Local Mail.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you, everybody in the room. Thank you for those of us that joined us on the live feed. We are here every Friday. We're working on moving locations and timings and all kinds of exciting stuff. So make sure you find out where we're at each week and come join us, be a part of the conversation. And we will see everybody next week.